We ready to go? Okay. Because unfortunately, I only have 15 minutes because I have to get to a 10 o'clock meeting. So I'm going to go quick here. So welcome back to the 2017 legislative session. We're on day 5. The legislature started on Monday. So everybody came into town, all 147 legislators, as well as the governors here and all the other statewide elected officials. This week has been a lot of bill introductions, lots of pomp and circumstance. The governor had his inauguration on Wednesday, and they had a big ball here at the Capitol. And so a lot of that stuff happening this week. But already there have been hundreds of bills introduced in the legislative session. And I want to just jump real quick to what I think we're going to be working on here in this 2017 session, because we couldn't find a bill that we really wanted to run. So I think that you've had conversations about the motor voter registration idea. And essentially what's happening in this space is there's a coalition of folks called the Voting Justice Coalition, who have a variety of proposals that they want to advance in this legislative session. One piece of that is a provision in a bill that would allow for 16 and 17-year-olds to register to vote when they get their driver's license. It wouldn't be able to vote yet until 18 because that's the voting age for the nation, but pre-registration. So the Department of Licensing, when you would go in to get your driver's license, would be required to let you know that you could pre-register to vote. And then on your 18th birthday, you would just be automatically registered to vote. There are a bunch of other things that are part of this having to do with different voting justice issues. And I'm just digging into these issues, so I'll know more about all the different pieces the next time we talk. But the first one of the 2 bills that's out there on this does have a hearing next week. And so want to know, yes, is this the issue we want to work on first of all? So show of hands. Are we good with voter registration issues? Looks fairly unanimous to me. Good. And generally, what do you think? How many people in the class would be supportive of pre-registration for voting for 16 and 17-year-olds? Great. Anybody opposed to that idea? Okay. We had one in the first period class, so you never know. There will be opposition to this issue. There are legislators who are not in favor of this, and we'll dig more into some of these issues as we get a little further down the line. But so both these 2 bills that deal with these issues by 2 different legislators have been introduced in the Senate, and one of the bills has a hearing next Wednesday already. So remember, going back to your notes, and just a reminder of the process here. First step for a bill to be to get passed is for it to be actually written and introduced in the state legislature. So that has happened with both bills that are out there. And the first of the hearings is scheduled for next Wednesday. This is where people will come forward and say, we're supportive of this, we don't like this, we want to change it in this way, we think you should do, put these words in or take these words out. And so assuming once we look at these different bills, you want to be supportive of them, or you've got suggested changes you want to make to them, Greg and I will be communicating on that so that I can make sure that I register your position for that hearing next week. And then going forward, we may have the opportunity for you to testify if somebody wants to do that via kind of like what we're doing here, because you can't come to Olympia all the time, but there are opportunities for you to speak to the committees if you so choose. And we will probably have next time we meet via video, I will invite both one of the sponsors of the bill that we're working on, one of the legislators who's actually introducing it, and as well as somebody coming from the Voting Justice Coalition to talk about why they want the various pieces of these bills and what they're working on. So, and then the following time we meet, I'm likely going to bring in somebody who has a different opinion so that you can kind of hear the pros and the cons on the issue. So that's a very, very brief kind of whirlwind update on what's going on. Are there questions about the bill or the process or where we are in session, any of that kind of stuff right now? Got to be some questions.
all of a sudden, everybody's really shy and quiet.
I know you were all excited when we got here, and then
Quiet before we got on, and now I can't get a word out.
I see a question there. Yeah.
Why are people opposed to it? What's the con side?
Well, there are some, well, I don't have all the details yet, so I can't really, I mean, I'm still trying to, again, we're only 4 days into this to figure out what there's going on. But there are people that want, in addition to, there are people that want citizenship verified before giving pre-registration. There are folks that are worried that I think that the system might be manipulated in some way. But I am working on that now, trying to get some of that information. And we'll know more after these hearings as to where people are on these issues. But that's kind of the extent of what I know so far, since we're just a couple days into it. Other questions? Yeah.
How did you get that background?
It's a poster.
Okay.
I'm in a studio. So I'm at TVW. So you guys know TVW is TV Washington, which is like our C-SPAN, right? I mean, you've ever been scrolling through and see the boring, congressional hearings happening in DC? This is the same thing. So you can go to channel 23 on Comcast anytime you want at home, and you can see what's happening in the legislature at any time. Sometimes you might see me up there testifying. Sometimes you'll see the legislators on the floor of the House or the floor of the Senate or in different hearings. And that's where I am. I'm in the studio at TVW, which is just about half a block off of campus. And they set up this studio for our Capitol Classroom Connections. They also broadcast several shows from this studio, this building, various programming around government, what's going on in government. There's a poster behind me on the wall.
Got it. Thank you.
Good question. Any other questions? Okay, so I want to talk for a few minutes about our field trip and your experience here in Olympia. So what will happen is you'll be coming down in the morning, and for the first part of the morning when you're down here, the legislators, both the House and the Senate, will be meeting in their chambers. That is where, if you've ever seen it, there's a whole bunch of desks. They're all in the same room. There's the speaker or the president of the Senate in front, and they're actually deliberating on bills and voting on them off the floor of the House and Senate. During that time, you're going to be doing exactly what I do during that time, and that is you get to send notes. So this will be probably the first time, in your career that you've been actually asked to send a note as opposed to not being allowed to send notes to each other. So you'll be going to the doors of the House and the Senate. I'll be splitting up into groups, and you'll be pulling legislators out of the respective chambers to talk to them about your position, your opinion on these bills and what you'd like to see happen. We'll do that from about 10 to 12, and then we'll be having lunch. And I hope to have a speaker join us for lunch, one of the legislators. Perhaps that might be the opportunity to have one of the pro or con people come and talk to you. And then after lunch, we're going to go back up onto the campus, and we're going to meet with your representatives and Senator Carlisle, Representative Tarleton, and Representative Frame, and talk to them about the issues, the bills, and have a kind of question answer period with them. I think we're going to be able to go with them into the wings of the House of Representatives, which is a place the public doesn't get to go. It's where the legislators can go, behind those doors that we send notes in. And so that'll be a really neat opportunity as well. And then we may go and watch a hearing if there's an interesting hearing going on at that time. And then you'll be heading home. The one thing that I am asking is to keep in mind that this is a professional business environment. It is a much more formal environment than really anywhere probably else in terms of business. Gentlemen in the legislature, the senators and representatives, they can't go onto the floor of the House or the Senate without a jacket and a tie on. So it really is a business more formal setting. So I'm asking that you do your best to dress appropriately. We don't want short skirts. We don't want ripped jeans and baseball caps and all that kind of stuff. Dress as professionally as you can. That is an important part of what we do and being taken seriously. And the first impressions that you present for both yourself and for Ballard and for this program, it's really important that you you appear and behave respectfully of the institution. Are there questions about the field trip or what is going to be happening then? Yeah, back in the back.
Full suit and tie.
If you have one, that'd be great. If you don't, you know, khakis and a sweater or something like that is fine too. But there will be, you'll see that this is like I said, lots of people in suits and ties and all that kind of stuff. So you've got it, great. Don't feel like you have to go out and buy stuff. I'm not saying that, but you know, whatever you have that's the most, you know, if you're going to be dressing up, but not mini skirts and you're not going to a nightclub. So, you know, a little bit different than that. Other questions about that? So one of the things that I'll probably be asking you to do in the next week or so is once you've had a chance to review both of these bills and sort of figure out what you think about the different provisions in there, you'll be sending me emails with that information. And then it will be important that you communicate via email, draft your own emails to the members of the committee that are considering these bills and tell them what you would like them to do. And I'll be providing for you the email addresses and we'll talk through what the talking points are. But you can tell them, you know, that you're part of this program and that you believe XYZ once we have those opinions. And you'll be surprised how many of you will get a response back from the members of the committee who are considering these bills. So that's sort of the first step in lobbying on a particular issue, is just to make sure that you've registered in a email or a letter or something like that what your opinions are on that bill. Any questions about that? What happened to all the energy we had at the very beginning? So everybody's all excited. Now it's that boring. You don't have to answer that.
We don't have to ask questions because he makes sense.
Oh, okay, got it.
I don't know. That's how I'm seeing it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so in that case, really at this point, I have to run to my meeting. So we'll probably cut short like a minute or so. I'm going to send today to Greg. I'll send you today both bills that I think we need to take a look at. One of them has to do with, one of them is directly the youth voting, but there's another bill that has a bunch of other stuff in it that we need to look at because they're probably going to end up blended in some way into one bill at some point. So take a look at it. And as soon as there's a bill report, which is kind of like a cliff notes of the bill, I'll send that to you as well. And then let's communicate next week about what you guys think about it, and we'll go from there with our next steps.
Okay. So are these bills so this is a variation of what was introduced?
There are two different bills that have been introduced. They're both in the Senate. Different senators have introduced them. They have they're different, but they're part of the same effort. And so it's quite likely that at some point they'll be blended into one.
Okay.
And so some of this stuff you may have no opinion on, some you will. And that's what I need to know from you guys once you have a chance to look through it, what you think about the different provisions that are in both bills.
Are these just revisions of the bills that were introduced last session that they had hearings on?
I'm going to have to go back and look at the different bills that were there last session.
Okay. We'll sort that out.
Yeah, I will do that research as well and see what's different. I think there is a more organized coalition this year, the Voting Justice Coalition. I met last night with one of the members of that, a contract lobbyist that I work with a lot, and his client is the Win-Win Network and the Center for Secure and Modern Elections, and they are one piece of this coalition. And so I think they've gotten more organized, I guess would be my, what I think is going on here. And maybe a little bit, there's a pretty motivated group of people that want to see some things done around election reform. So.
All right. Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're through on it.
Yay.
All right. Thanks. Have a good weekend.
Bye, Vicky.
Bye. Go hard.